Oh, they don't know I'm... Oh, okay.
Like when you're in first person, it's hard to hit to go to the animations.
This is gonna be
You
good.
have to be third person to do that.
Yeah, you gotta hit enter for it to stop. Otherwise, you're kind of.
Are you edgy fucking meme lords done, or can we get started?
We're waiting on you,
We
boss
were
man.
waiting for you, man.
I've been here for the past 5 minutes just watching you eggheads play with the dancing from Ace, but that's okay.
We were singing
I
Barbie
mean,
too.
you know.
I know. You already got me copyrighted striked, so thank you for that.
Don't mind me, I'm here just doing my own work.
I know. Alright, meme lords aside, TSB, like I said above, we're semi-serious when it comes to ops, but, you know, briefing-wise, feel free to meme around. I mean, we're still casual, but, you know, fun shit. So anyway, next maybe 2.5 hours, I'll try to get through it as quick as I can. We're going to run through a bunch of modules, and I'm going to try to teach you the basics. If you've ever done something like this before, most of this will be repetitive with the exception of some settings, because there's some settings we play in this community that I have never seen deployed in any other community, like our medical system, for example. But for the most part, we'll be going little table by table, module by module. So, if you have any questions halfway along the way or whatever, just let me know. I'll take questions at the end of each module. Capiche?
Hey, fun.
Cool. Let's get started. Everyone go up to this box. I need you to grab an ANPRC 152 and the big RHS backpack. Do also note the RF 7800 and the micro radio dagger programmer. All that is sometimes you need that radio programmer to use the smaller ones, but by default you will always spawn with the micro dagger programmer because that's how the game's coded. So keep that in mind.
Which one was it?
The green one. Actually, they're both green.
Send
Fuck.
in
Just the
goats
152s.
now.
The 152 and the
Yay.
152
I
3G.
got the right one, yeah.
Hey, Kurt, how you doing? Thanks to the 12-month resub. Welcome to the Lance Corporal Club. Hope you keep enjoying the operations. Hope you're getting a kick out of this. Come on, Tug. We're waiting on you.
Chose the wrong one then.
All right. So, in all of Arma 3, there's 2 radio mods, Acre and TFAR. We're more of a TFAR community. I actually, like, most of the communities out there use TFAR, but some use Acre. Acre is more advanced, but, you know, TFAR it's more basic, easier to explain, yada-da. But Acre has cooler radio sounds. Digressing. How you interact with your radios are simple. We're going to go with the short range first. So if you hold left control and hit the P key, you'll open up your little radio. Now, in order to speak with each other, you need to all be on the same frequency. So I'm going to pretend we're all going to be Alpha Squad and TSB. So I'd like everyone to hit the CLR button, type 60, and hit the ENT button. When you hover over those buttons, you'll notice CLR is clear frequency and ENT is set frequency. Once you do that, you can hit the escape button and look at me, so I know you're done, because you'll be patting your shoulder. So, this is why TFAR is awesome. I'm going to go over here now. Now, you're probably going to notice that you're not going to be able to hear me after a while. But, if you're on 60, crouch. Excellent.
Send in goat team 6 now.
That's the power of TFAR. You basically can communicate with each other. Which, by the way, to speak on your short-range radio, it's caps lock. So if you want to dick around with that for a second, feel free.
Check.
Yep. Notice how everyone just talked over each other. We'll get to that in a second. But when you use your radio, it'll pop up on the bottom right of your screen. You'll see the frequency, and it'll say that you're transmitting. So, let's get into something a little more advanced. Everyone open your radio back up again. Let's say, for whatever reason, you are a fire team lead and your squad leader's a dick, and he wants you to have a fire team net and a squad lead net, so he can talk to you and then you can directly micro your fire team on a different frequency. So, in order to establish this, you have to get into your radio and set up an alternate frequency. So 60 will be your squad net. We're going to make 61 the alternate net. So if you hit the 2 key on your numpad or just click next channel, which is the plus button over the PRE, you'll go to C2 and it'll say, you know, a frequency number. You're going to hit clear, type in 61, hit enter, and then you're going to click on set additional channel. This is the left arrow button on the bottom. If you already know how to do all this, you can do it and get out of the radio so I know who's ahead. But anyway, once you click that button, you'll see the C2 change to an A2. And now, let's say you want to listen to your alternate frequency in your right ear so you can listen to your primary on your left ear. To do this, you are going to hit stereo settings twice. If you'll notice, when you hit that, on the bottom right, it'll say additional, and then it can cycle between left only, right only, and left and right. That means which ear you're going to be able to hear it from. So if you hit it twice, it'll be set to right only. Then, you go back to channel 1, either by hitting the minus button previous channel or the 1 key on your numpad. And then you're going to hit stereo settings once, so then it'll say left only above the additional right only. And then you'll be able to hear channel 60, your squad leader, bitch at you on your left ear. And then your fire teammates on your right ear will bitch at you that they don't have anything to shoot at. Now, if you did it right, you'll be able to hear me in your left ear right now. And now on your right ear on 6-1. We rarely do that, but once in a while, sometimes you do that. And then there's other communities out there that do that sort of thing all the time. Does anyone need me to go over that again? Don't be shy. Okay, going once, going twice, sold. So, every radio has a different interface, but... What?
Thing.
Okay. Every radio has a different interface look, but if you hover over the buttons, it'll tell you what they do. So, for example, open your radio back up. If you go on the top, you'll notice the middle knob antenna thing. If you right-click or left-click, you can increase or decrease the volume. There's also a button, the 0 key on the bottom left, that says stereo settings. We've already gone over that. I meant the right arrow key that says speakers. Never, ever, ever put your fucking radio on speakers. That means other people around you can hear any radio traffic that you receive. The only time you generally do that is in Ironfront Ops, where there's one RTO, and it's absolutely pertinent for the squad leader and other people close by him to listen to that radio traffic. But like I said, it's very, very niche, and most people prefer you not to put the damn speakers on. You'll get some buttons that, some radios that won't be able to set additional channels, like the RF and the box. So, you know, whatever you get is what you're going to work with. Furthermore, by the way, to speak on the alternate frequency that you establish on that radio, it's the T key. However, you can always hit escape, go to configure, go to controls, and then configure add-ons, set the add-on to TFAR, and change those buttons however you want. I've got a mouse with 12 buttons for my thumb, so I have all my radio speaking buttons for my thumb to hit. Also, if you are talking on multiple frequencies, it is highly recommended, actually not highly, you should always give it 1 to 2 seconds before you switch between frequencies. That's because TFAR needs a second because it's integrated with TeamSpeak to speak with yourself. So for example, if I were to do something like this, if I'm speaking on 60 and then immediately go to 6-1 like I am, TFAR just cut me out because it wasn't able to detect it in time. It even said I was still on 60 instead of switching over to 6-1 because I went immediately from one button to another. So if you're speaking on a short range, you go to a long range, or you're speaking on a short range going to an alt frequency, you need to give it that second, otherwise you won't be able to send your traffic. You got to give the game a second to catch up with you, capiche? Alright, let's go over... What?
Nothing. You said
Yeah,
copy.
he said copy, gotcha. Sorry, alright. Let's go over your long range. To utilize that, you hold left Alt and hit the P key. Now, you're going to notice, like I just said, every radio, different interface, but if you hover over stuff, same button. So, menu clear, clear frequency, that load 0 speakers again, STO, stop, stereo settings, battle call, decrease volume, time, increase volume, blah, blah, blah. Long ranges, generally in TSB, the one long range frequency you're always going to use is 50. 50 lets you communicate between squads, ground command, vehicle assets, and Zeus. The only other long range we generally use is 55, and that is the private net for the JTAC, the guy that talks to the airplane people, to, ask them for airstrikes. It's our or ground to air net. And then usually air establishes their own long range frequency to speak to each other, and that's usually announced to the JTACer on map, not to general infantry, because no one wants a general infantryman going on their net and spewing random bullshit. Other frequencies to note in TSB, other than 50, squad nets are generally in increments of 10, starting at 60. So 60 is your Alpha squad, so Alpha will be on that net. Bravo will be on 70, Charlie on 80, Delta on 90, and so on up to Echo, Gamma, if you even get that far. Usually, not always, any type of fire support or artillery is also on 5-1, but recently we've been putting them on 5-5 as well to communicate with JTAC because he, manages those long-range assets. Any vehicle crews, for their own short-range nets, they usually just establish it to themselves. And they'll put it on the top right of the map if they want to share it. Otherwise, like I said, they don't want random people going on their net and spewing bullshit. So, those are the general nets. Other facts about TFAR. If I were to go into my long range and go on 60, I'd actually be able to communicate to you all in short range through this long range. Any Blue 4 radios can speak with each other. Also, almost all Blue 4 vehicles, from like Humvees and above, gun trucks and above, I will say, so tanks, APCs, airplanes, helicopters, have a built-in long-range radio. So you can communicate with any assets even if they don't have a long range to reach you because their vehicle is a long range, essentially. So those RFs, for example, can communicate with the 152s. The RFs can communicate with the 152Gs. This radio I'm on could communicate with that boxcar Hemet over to the northeast, which is up the runway since I don't think you guys have compasses yet. We'll get to that. Any OP4 FADX, that's their general short range, can communicate with any OP4 assets, and any Green 4 stuff can communicate with, I believe they use the GEMS. That's our usual radio for them. Just note that an OP4 vehicle can't talk with a Green 4 vehicle. However, we do sometimes run a script or two on vehicles to switch their allegiance. So if we're playing a Blue 4 faction, but we want to use Green 4 Mi-24s, because Green 4 has this westernized version of the Mi-24 in the Czech-A-D faction that we love to use because it, helps them detect incoming missiles and it makes it more fair for the pilots. We have a script that will change their radio to Blue 4 or Op 4 wherever we need it. That way, that long-range asset can still speak to you guys. Other things to note, short ranges generally have a maximum range of about 1.5 clicks. I like using the 152s here because it has a maximum range of about 2 clicks. But there's radios like the GEM and FADC that only go up to about 1 click. A click being a full box on the map. We'll get to that in the next module when we talk about maps. Long ranges generally go up to 5 clicks. And vehicle long ranges generally go up to 10 clicks. This is bearing flat terrain, by the way. So, for example, see this giant hill behind me that I'm staring at? If I were to have an asset on the other side and trying to speak to them on short range, they might actually come in a bit gargled or choppy because the terrain will actually affect communications with radio just like in real life. Which segues into one other thing I'll tell you guys. Often when you're doing radio checks with people, you'll sometimes hear someone say, yeah, I read you 5x5. I'm not going to get into what that specifically means, but just tell you this. 5x5 means you can perfectly understand them. 3x5 means you can make out what they're saying, but they're coming in gargled. And 1x5 generally means you can't understand anything that they're saying. Capiche? I'm sure you can Google it and look it up on your own time what it specifically means, but I don't want to get into that. Think I'm missing anything, Undead?
No, I should be able to T-file normally.
Alright. One more thing I forgot to mention. Speaking on the long range radio is control caps lock, and then speaking on its alternate frequency is Y. Now, you need to unbind Y because Y is also the general button to get the Zeus interface, but if you don't have the Zeus interface access, it pings the Zeus instead. And nothing's more annoying than hearing random piano key sounds when the player base is playing and you're trying to organize ops. So like I said, you got to go into escape, controls, configure add-ons, and rebind your keys. But the only time you're going to be speaking on an alternate long-range frequency is if you're taking JTAC. Because otherwise, almost everything is done on 50. With, again, some exceptions, like pilots, usually they stick on 5.0 and 5.5 to at least listen to what the infantry are doing. Any other questions? Alright, that about covers it. Let's move on to the next module. So, Kurt, thanks for giving Justin a sub. Justin was doing a 506 Zeus op the other day. It was really fun to watch. Even found Ambi on there. Thank you. Hope you both keep enjoying everything. I hope you get a kick out of this. Alright, so, one more thing I should note. I usually say this in the beginning of the training, but I'll say it now. This is meant to kind of give you a crash course in everything we do. The only way you're really going to learn this stuff is by actually playing ops. So, you know, this just teaches you the basics, but if you want real experience, play in an operation. So, with that said, let's look in this box. I want you to grab one of everything in here. Grab a compass, GPS, map, and watch. I'm going to put an Android in there. Don't touch it. It's just because I spawn with it. And replace your micro dagger with your watch, if you don't mind. Stone is busy IRL. He's a farmer, and it's that season. Time of the year, I should say. Okay, here's how this works. So first off, to open your watch, you hit O. Tells you the time, tells you the date. Also, it'll tell you if speed... How do I say this? Basically, there's a setting, I know Sniper Wolf likes to use it, that sets the time of day to accelerate. So, you know, instead of 24-hour standard time, you can have, like, you know, 6 IRL hours equal 24 hours in-game or something. So day-night cycle increases or decreases. With your watch, if your dials start going super-duper speedy, that's how you know time acceleration's been turned on. So that's a good indication. Excuse me. But otherwise, watch tells time. It glows in the dark. Yay. Anyway, next button. K. Hold that down, open your compass. Compasses are really, really useful because they give the essence of target acquisition. When you don't have something like a GPS, micro dagger, fancy binoculars that give you those things for you, yada-da. So if you hold that down, look around, obviously, you know, you get your cardinal directions, but you have a bunch of numbers. Focus on the inner numbers in that circle, not the outer numbers. They're at the edges of your compass. Usually to line up a target, you want to put it in the little opening on the top of your compass, and then that line will line up perfectly with the red line underneath. So, if I wanted to warn my squad if there was a BMP coming down a hill, it's going to be at bearing 270. I'd probably do something like, hey lead, be advised, BMP coming down the hill, bearing 270. When you're communicating to each other over the radio, you want to keep it short, you want to keep it concise, and you want to keep it clear. That's something that I still struggle with, and I've been playing this game since like 2012. You just gotta keep a level head, you just gotta play a bunch of ops, and eventually you'll be able to, you know, develop a way to be able to say things briefly. People go over giant spiels about it, but personally it just comes with experience. Like if I were to say, hey lead, be advised, at bearing 140 we have an MI-8 landing and dropping troops off. Which would be right behind you guys to the southeast. Generally, you want to give distance, target acquisition, there's a different term for it, but what the target is, and then any key things it's doing, like if that BMP is charging down towards you or that MI-8's landing, dropping guys off. If you don't have a distance, give a waypoint. So, for example, like top of the hill for the BMP, that'll tell people, hey, it's at the top. If it's by like a really tall tree next to a bunch of bushes, which is a little more to the right, you can just reference that instead. But basically, you're just trying to tell people, you know, where something is quickly, because other people are probably going to start using that radio net to communicate with each other over other stuff. If for whatever reason you need to say something and everyone's talking, say break, break, break first. That's the only radio lingo I'm going to teach you guys, but that's only for emergencies. Like, for example, BMP coming down the hill, gun looking right at you, about to murder you. There's a bunch of other radio terms. If you want more in-depth stuff, you can go play in the 506. They do a really good job with their O-Suit classes on teaching you that, or you can look it up. But otherwise, yeah, the only one that's usually used is break, break, break. And then break just means someone's taking a rest to transmit more stuff. But like I said, those are the only two that we really use in TSB. Other things to note, local chatter, like what I'm using to speak to you guys, we'll get into more of that in a second. That's generally what you use to communicate with each other. Radio's used for actual ARMA traffic and stuff, at least during the ops. But, you know, it depends on the mood. If people are taking something memey, other people are going to take it memey, but we try to take it serious here, so just food for thought. Now, let's get into another module. Anyone have any questions on the compass or radio traffic or anything we've gone over? No? Cool. All right. Hit the M key. All right, so this is the map. A lot of things to talk about here. First off, I mentioned earlier the grid box. If you scroll in a little bit, you'll see that your map kind of turns into these big boxes here. That represents a square kilometer. If you scroll in even more, you'll get a bunch of smaller boxes in that big box. Those represent 100 meters. 100 meters squared, essentially. So, we're about right here-ish, I want to say. But we're on the runway, top right of the map, Maladin Airport. We're going to learn about grid refs. Grid coordinates. People call them grid ref. So, to read a grid ref, which is our general location, you take the grid square you're in, and you read the top left number and the bottom right number of that grid square. So I'm going to circle this area on the map. By the way, to make the the yellow dot appear with your name on it, you just hold the mouse button. That's how you get people's attention that are by you. So if you want to reference something specific on the map, that's how you get their attention. But we take this line going up right here, 079, and then this line right here is 095. And if you need to tell someone where you are, you'd say, I'm at grid ref 079095. And that gives them, you know, a general idea of where you are in that grid square. You will read that grid square even if you're right here, here, here. Or even, like, barely right there. As long as you're not over the next box, you read top left, bottom right. Capiche? Alright. What else should I teach? If we go a little to the left over here, you'll notice that there's a bunch of red lines in between some other lines. Also, let's have everyone actually drop their GPSs for a second. This makes it a bit easier. So just drop your GPS. We'll get to the GPS in a second, but it makes reading the contour lines a bit easier. That's because on the bottom right of the map, you'll see contour intervals and elevation in meters, blah, blah, blah. But that little line that you see on the bottom right of your map or whatever tells you the distance of what each of these contour lines represent. So here to here is 20 meters. Here to here is 20 meters if you're scrolled in. This will change depending on how much you're scrolled in here. So just keep that in mind. Also, these lines represent elevation. So if you, for example, see this area, the lines are closer together. And then when you go further uphill, it starts to even out over here. That's because if you hit the M key and actually look to our west, you'll see that, you know, this hill, I'm going to call it, has, you know, a bit of a steep ledge going up, but then kind of evens out on the top just past that BMP. That's essentially how you read elevation on a map. One more thing I'll teach you. If we look down at this intersection right here, this is a good representation of the difference between an MSR and an SSR is. MSR being main supply route, SSR being side supply route. The MSR is always going to be the biggest road that you can see in your AO. So the MSR for this area would be this big yellow line. That's the equivalent of a major road in the game. And then this tan line and this little thin line would be your SSRs. Now, if I were to direct your attention up this road, and let's say our AO is this military base right here, your MSR then would be that route right here, because it's the biggest road with the most traffic, and then your SSR would be the dirt path, essentially. That's what that little line means. But if we were to take this area and actually go over here and say this is your AO, then the MSR would then be this one route that goes in, and there's no SSRs. So that's what it means if people are talking about MSRs and SSRs. It just means the road. Any questions on anything we've gone over so far? Cool. Last thing I will teach you guys regarding the map. First off, little rock symbols mean rocks. Green means concealment or cover, forest or bushes. Gray boxes mean buildings. But sometimes you're going to see a number like this 91 right here. And then going uphill, you get up to like 179, 185. Go south of that to this area, you'll notice 252, 254, 255, blah, blah, blah. What that means is it's elevation from sea level. Because if you actually notice, this all goes uphill. You start at 18, 31, get up to 91, 185. Just means your elevation. So if you were to go do a recon maneuver on St. Louis, you'd probably want to note that it's 105 and 130 at these specific points. So if you want to do recon, that means you need to find a higher point than 130 and 105 so you can see the entire town. So going somewhere like here that says 72 would not really help you because you're going to be below the actual town. It would be better for you to go up to around right here where it's, it's higher. 185, 194, puts you a good 50 to 80 meters above the town itself. Or if you want to do it at a longer range, you could go over here, 258, 254, and that would give you a towering view of that entire town, depending on what you're comfortable with and what the op calls for. Capiche? Any questions on map stuff? Alright, let's all pick up our GPSs. There was a different way that I could have told you just hide it on the map with an ACE interaction, but I'm stupid and I don't think of everything, so. GPS is really nice, because if you hold right control and hit the M key, or hit the left or right bracket keys, you can have your GPS pull up on the left or right side of your HUD. Basically, your monitor. Now, this is nice, because it'll give you your active position on the map, the position you're facing. Doesn't always do that, depends on the difficulty, but for the sake of this one, position you're facing. It gives you a bunch of different numbers as well next to the nav button. First off, it gives you the time of day. Doesn't tell you AM or PM, though. You just have to guess by looking up. If it's 12:40 and you look up and it's sunny out, it's probably PM. If you look up and it's dark out and it's 12:40, it's probably AM. Capiche? Next number, when you look around. I've had people ask me the dumbest questions, Pigman. That's why I go over all this. This is from literally the annals of the internet, and it's horrible. But anyway, next number it gives you is your compass bearing at the direction you're pointing. So if you do a full circle, you'll notice as soon as you get to the north, it resets from 359 to 0. Because a circle's 360 degrees. Wow. And then the last number it gives you is your grid ref. And it remembers what I said earlier, 079095. Oh my god, we're there. I know, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Any questions? Cool. Last thing I will teach you, because I forgot to teach it, if you all go to your maps again. What if you need to give a more specific grid ref? We generally don't do 4-digit grid refs. So instead, we use the numpad method. And what the numpad method does is it divides that 100 meter squared area into, that is a really horrible 5, fuck me. It divides it into zones of 33.3 degrees. And it lines up with your numpad. So, let's see. Yeah, looking at the GPS, we're numpad 1. So if you need to give a more specific area of where you are, you just say 079095 numpad 1, and that shrinks that 100 meter area to now a 33 meter area. Or, let's say you're at the bus stop, a little northeast of us right now. You could just say 081098 at the bus station, bus stop, whatever. Again, it's all about transmitting all the data you can in as small of a time as possible because they're busy shooting people or managing their squad mates or whatnot. Also, numpads are really good for telling air already specific places to hit, such as, specific areas infantry are moving, a specific tank or vehicle, like, if you have the difference between a T-55 or a T-34 moving up to you, you're going to want to kill the T-55 first because it's more of a threat. Capiche? Such a weird word, isn't it? But anyway, that's some of the more nitty-gritty stuff. It's gonna get a little quicker pace from here, but as long as you're learning. Let's move on over here.
Yeah, I'm stuck in walking up.
Control C.
Control C.
Did it and it don't work.
Or right click.
Send in Goat Team 6 now.
I'm learning with Wivu Fun.
Great, now I'm stuck to walking. It'll change in a bit when we get to guns in a second. But anyway, if you have enhanced movement, go up the course, jump over to the last part, but don't fall down the course yet. If you don't know what enhanced movement is, hit the escape key, go to configure, go to controls, under show, scroll down to custom controls, and then use action 1, assign that to a key that you're going to use a lot. So for example, I like to use the space bar. That's going to be your enhanced movement key. But you can set that to however you want. Also make sure when you set that button, you then hit OK and OK and OK instead of hitting escape. Otherwise it won't save.
I actually don't know this one. I know the climb.
If you fall, just limp back over and come over here again.
I can put it in the air. You know what that means?
Did he just knock himself unconscious? Cack. Come on, just get over here. You just gotta climb, and then you just run over and hit the enhanced movement key again to jump. Just jump.
Do what you do with Mirror's Edge.
It'll work even if you're crippled. Just spam the enhanced movement key. You could literally fall down, and as long as you're hitting the enhanced movement key, you'll still climb up here.
A Mirror's Edge style, boy. Let's
I
go.
don't know. I hit it. It did not work.
Worked for me, because I was on the floor, then I teleported.
It could
So
just not
everything
like me.
hurts now.
Probably doesn't. Alright, get up here, guys. I know you're crippled.
Tell me.
Just literally, you could walk off this ledge, but as long as you're spamming that enhanced movement key, you will still climb up that HESCO.
Somebody block me on-
God, some of you are just... This is the worst class I've had. Normally everyone's over there by now. One of you managed to glitch through the HESCO. Wow. Stop hitting the V key to vault. Hit your enhanced movement key. God. You guys are making me look bad.
People's key, if they haven't changed it, is Control V.
That is
Okay, yeah.
Control V.
Heal me,
If you
please.
haven't
I'm in
changed
such pain. Give me morphine, please.
No, get over to the other side. Literally, I'll fall right now. Spam it. Boom, I'm up.
No gain.
Easy. One of you speaking on local comms instead of your radio, unless that's your microphone, in which case, oof.
I think it is his mic.
It's my mic.
Come on.
Safe for the weapon.
Come on, spam that key, buddy.
I am.
Oh my god.
I hit it like 5 times.
You're using enhanced movement, not ace vaulting, right?
Yes. Control V.
No.
That's
Turn your custom-
Is that what you set your custom control 1 to?
That's the default. I haven't changed it.
Because I'm pretty sure control V is ace vaulting.
Got them good morphine.
Which isn't gonna work. Bounty Hunter, thanks for the 9 months.
I need more heroin.
Hope you keep enjoying the ops. Hope we get a kick out of this. I'll BRB. I'm gonna heal everyone. I'm gonna have to do this again. Normally this module takes like 10 seconds. There's always a class that does something weird. These guys are all gonna kill themselves on the IED course. Bet right now.
Ah, there we go.
You're setting custom control under custom controls. Use action 1. You need to set that to your enhanced movement key. Do not use control V because that's ace. And ace won't let you vault onto shit. So the 3 of you plebs that aren't over here yet, fix it. And get over here. There we go. One of you made it. If the guy named Ignorance is the last person to get over here, I'm gonna blow up Undead Cog with a fucking anti-material rifle or something.
Might be me, because I'm trying to fucking find it and I can't.
Okay, thank fuck. Come on, Pigman. Come on.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it in my controls and I'm being stupid.
Okay, escape, configure, controls, under show, custom controls, it's towards the bottom, and then use action 1, you assign that to the key. And then hit OK, OK, OK. Okay?
Those controls can, custom?
Custom controls, and then use action 1, you set that to the key.
I will do that with...
We're getting aimed at in the back.
See if it fucking works. It probably won't for me.
And we're being tried in the head.
Don't be pessimistic.
What the fuck? I hit space.
Come on, Pigman. Here, to the rest of you, I'll find a way to entertain you guys. Look east.
Should be a medic back in one of the bars.
Do. I said today no cadres. I don't know why he showed up.
Maybe he's watching the stream. Are you streaming? Or no?
What? Then that's stream sniping. Hey, he made it! Look at that.
Just kill me later.
Okay, guys, here's why we do the enhanced movement way instead of ace. Watch this. I'm literally falling backwards, but as long as I hit that key, I'm still going to vault up here. The only reason I'm taking damage is because these HESCO barriers aren't high enough, and I'm still technically hitting the floor before the button registers. So basically, you don't want to fall all the way back, because if you fall too far, you're not going to be able to be right up to the item to then hit enhanced movement. If you're jumping rooftop to rooftop in Fallujah and you're not going to make a jump, you can just spam enhanced movement, and as long as you get on the edge of the wall, it'll put you up there. It'll also let you vault walls better. It'll let you vault barbed wire, let you vault anywhere. You just have to hit the enhanced movement key. Just make sure you don't hit the enhanced movement key while doing an action like repelling, because then you'll break your enhanced movement until you relog. Speaking of repelling, we run advanced repelling. So if you were to go on the edge of this and hit repel self, you can repel off the edge. I'm gonna heal everyone. Give me a second.
Going back to...
This sucks. Now we can't shoot undead cog with an anti-material rifle.
You know,
I like your way of standing. It's nice.
Yeah, you gotta be careful though, because this sometimes happens, which goes into my next segue point. You don't want to repel off of really small distances. You want to instead just go up to the edge and hit the enhanced movement key so you climb off of it. Because sometimes if it's too short, you'll lock yourself in what I like to call the Gary's Mod animation, where you're just in that animation forever, even if you have a gun. So Kylo's gonna stay with that for the rest of his life here. So he's now going to be Xavier in the wheelchair from X-Men, except we can't see the wheelchair. He borrowed some technology from Wonder Woman's invisible jet. But, any questions? No? Cool, let's move on to the next module. Everyone grab one of everything in this box. You're going to grab a gun, earplugs, a mag, and an E-tool, also known as an entrenching tool. When you're done with that, come over here. Oh, and by the way, if you've been stuck walking, just hit Control-C after you have the gun out, and then hit C twice, and you'll be fine. We'll talk about movement controls in a second. Actually, no. And like halfway through the remaining stuff. By the way, we're like a fourth done, so yay! It's only been like 30 minutes, yay! Okay, so first off, we run Ace. Ace is the mod that makes Arma actually fucking playable, in my opinion. So, I've been on yelling, by the way. There's 3 different types of communication. There's whispering, which lets people up to 5 meters hear you, normal, which is 10 meters, and yelling, which is 15. To toggle between these 3, you hold left control and hit the tab key. That'll let you go from voice volume, whispering, normal, and yelling. So, if you're not on yelling, go on yelling. It makes it easier to do this training. Normally I teach that first, but I thought, what the heck. I'll try it different today.
Your voice is the same.
See, your voice is the same, it just means we can hear you from farther away. So if you have a shitty mic and sound like a girl with your it's still going to sound like okay? If you want to be a man, you got to go I don't know. You do you. I probably just ear-rape my chat, but whatever. They all suck anyway. So, now, let's go into Ace control options. I'm sorry, chat, please don't hate me. So, if you hold Control Windows key, you'll get your self-interaction menu. Some of you are already doing this, playing with the dance animations, which we do have in the realism mod set, because we understand some of you get bored and memey and want to dance like Russians with your little sit-down, kick your lance up. Damn it, now they're calling me Lance Lolly. Fuck. Anyway, you also have gestures. We don't go over gestures, so don't worry about them. Medical menu, medical, we'll get to those later. And then you have team management, which lets you set your color. I didn't say go into the Russian dance. I just said to note there were Russian dances, Tug. Open your ears. And then you got your 4 colors. You can set that between, let's say you're like me and you like to have a red team and a blue team for your fire teams, yada-da. That's available to you. And then you have equipment. Some of you have already been playing with this. You can put your backpack on your chest. That's really useful if you're doing paradrop stuff, which means you can put a parachute on your back. That way, when you jump out of the helicopter or plane or whatever with V double tap, you won't kill yourself, you know. It'll be great. Just note that, side note on that. There are some ways that we do paradropping, especially in IFA, where you don't need a parachute, but there's a script that'll automatically give you a parachute. That's, again, situational based on the op, but that exists, so keep that in mind. We also have weapon temperature. Really simple, guys. If you fire your gun for a long time, your weapon temperature will go up. So if you were to go and check your weapon temperature, you'll see a symbol of your gun and a bunch of gray bars. If they're all gray, that means you haven't fired your gun in a while. If there's a few green bars there, that means you fired your gun a few times and your weapon temperature is still fine. If your gun lights right there are yellow, they'll be about halfway through the lines, and that means you need to start considering either switching to your secondary or not firing your gun for a bit, because that means your weapon's starting to overheat. And if most of those red bars, or even all of those red bars are, or bars I should say, are red, that means your weapon's overheated. Here's the issue about overheated weapons. First and foremost, you won't be able to hit your fucking target past 100 meters. Your bullets are going to fly all over the goddamn place. Second, is your weapon is a lot more likely to jam. If you ever hear a reload sound when you fire, like a ch or whatever, and you'll get a pop-up on the top right that says weapon jam, you then either hit Control-Shift-R or be a pleb like me and go back to equipment and hit clear jam. You have a 90% chance to clear the jam. I've once gone 4 times trying to clear a jam and it wouldn't fucking clear, and I was the MG gunner and it really fucked my squad. But anyway, that's what weapon jamming is. Make sure you keep in mind about your weapon overheating. Now, do note, there's some mod sets here, like Mass Effect, for example, where we don't manage weapon overheating, because Mass Effect likes to overheat its guns in 3 shots. So we just don't bother with it, because that's bullshit, in my opinion. Final thing on weapon jamming, if you're a sniper or a machine gunner, sometimes you'll get the option in the arsenals to take out a spare barrel, which, by the way, 2 types of arsenal we use in this community. First is the look at and scroll wheel option for the BIS standard arsenal. That's the one built into the game. And then Ace has its own arsenal, which you just hold Windows, interact with the box or whatever, and give you an option that says arsenal. I'll get more on interactions with the Windows key in a second. But otherwise, managing the spare barrel, it's really simple. If you have one in your inventory, which, by the way, it's a big, heavy thing, so generally you want to have an assistant with you to either carry that barrel for you or have him carry spare ammo for you, because you're going to have to compensate by not bringing in as much ammo, because that thing's like 2.5 boxes the size. But anyway, you can then control windows, equipment, and then change the barrel out. You can check that spare barrel's temperature, like if you're trying to have it cool down as you're firing the new barrel, yada da. Any questions on anything I've gone over the past 5 minutes? Cool. All right. Next thing we'll go over is earplugs. You always want to have your earplugs in when you're fighting. If not, you're going to go combat deaf. And you'll know what combat deafness is, because it's actually like combat deafness. Your ears will start ringing and you won't be able to hear things. Personally, I love that sound. However, my stream doesn't. They get mad at me when I fire a machine gun without my hearing protection, but it's fun. It's so calming. But if you don't want to, if you're a normal person and you don't want that sound, put your earplugs in. Do note, however, that even if you have them in, if you're next to a lot of loud noises, like 5 launchers firing at once, if you ever join my AT training, you're still going to have a little bit of combat deafness. And then do also note there are some mod sets we use, like Star Wars, where there's no earplugs and there's no combat deafness, because the variables they have in the mod don't encompass it. And it's, like I said, it's like not having weapon overheating in Mass Effect, because it's not built to accompany that. Alright. Second to last thing I'll teach you, like I said, hold down the Windows key. It'll let you interact with other people. So you can look at people, go to their interactions, and join their squad, for example. If you're doing something where you all spawn unslotted. Otherwise, don't do that, because if you break up the squads, then people are going to yell at you. You can also tap people's shoulders if you want to be an asshole, and you can also do medical on them. Again, we'll get to that in a second. Actually, that module is, I think, like 3 or 4 away. So, maybe 20 minutes. But last thing I will teach you is the E-tool. So if you control Windows, Equipment, and Trenching tool, you get the option to dig 5 trenches. Small trench is for yourself. It's also a half of a foxhole. You also have the big trench, which is for a fire team. Short trench, which is useless. Giant trench, which is awesome but takes forever to dig. And then vehicle trench, which is for vehicles. Now, if I were to start digging a giant trench, for example, you'll notice the grass will start to clear away, and a trench will start sprouting from the ground. At any time, if you start getting shot at, you can hit the escape button to stop digging the trench, and then pull your gun out and shoot them. Then hold Windows, look down at where you were digging the trench, and then you can continue digging said trench. You can also look at other people's trenches and help them dig it. That's your cue to help me dig this trench. It takes a while, please. And every person that helps dig the trench helps increase the time, or decrease the time it takes of digging said trench. I forget by what variable, though. But you'll see this trench appear. And then boom. Now, this trench is hard cover, which means bullets aren't going to go through it. You can also put camo on the trench. We'll get to that in a second. But giant trench, obviously, it helps you do stuff and stick to cover and whatnot. Personally, I prefer the regular big trench because it lets you crouch and hit C to rest your weapon on it, where the giant trench you still have to stand, even hold control and hit the W key to stand a little above the trench to fire, and if you're firing it standing, it's better to fire your guns crouched because it gives you more accuracy, blah blah blah. But anyway, trenches. Also, if for whatever reason your trenches aren't showing up, you can put camo on the top, and that'll help you see the trench. There are a few maps out there where the trenches glitch out and you're not able to see the actual trench texture, but you are able to see the camo texture.
Okay, finally done.
The camo doesn't make you stealthier, by the way. In the variables, it does have a benefit, but it's negligible, especially since we run VCOM AI. Also, at any point, you can always undig the trench in the same ace interaction. You can just hit remove camouflage, remove trench. But do also note that if you're digging trenches everywhere, it takes a lot of server resources. So occasionally the Zeus might delete your trenches that you've left to, you know, help alleviate the server. One more thing I'll mention. I already kind of mentioned it, but didn't explain it fully. once in a blue moon, we don't do this anymore because we don't Zeus under Luton, but you'll hear someone call for a foxhole to be dug. A foxhole is simply two people going back to back and digging a small trench. That is because if you're ever about to take mortar fire and you hear those ranging shots about to hit you, you can have two people get back to back and dig a small trench. This is because when this trench finishes, if you go prone and you've lined it up properly so you're fully encased in a trench, nothing can kill you. As long as you don't get shot while outside of the trench or the mortar lands directly in your trench. So, for example, if someone were to dig this trench behind me, I'd have a full little place to go prone in. So if a mortar were to land literally on Krieg, or Harrier, or Ignorance, and I had the other half of this trench done, if I went prone, I would be perfectly okay. So that's what it means to dig a foxhole. Any questions on that? Like I said, when you put a trench up, you're literally like taking God's earth, or actually I'm not going to get into religious stuff. Basically, it's invincible.
Small tank right there.
It is unkillable. It's just, I mean, fuck's sake, like, literally chunks of a fucking wall come out when you shoot in it. It's just, I don't know where you get this stuff, but, I mean, the ground is invincible too, so, you know, just taking that invincible ground and putting it in a trench, that's, I wish I had a cooler analogy for it, but I don't, so, whatever. Any questions on trenches? If you ever find any equipment or equip any equipment, you can always go control Windows equipment and then interact with it. Other pieces of equipment have different uses. We'll go over some of it a little later, but that's essentially how it's done. Also, make sure you have your backpack on your back and not on your chest because you're forced walking when you have it on your dick. So, put it on your back. Anyway, let's go to the next module. Now, quick note before I go over this module. We're going to go over grenade throwing. Do not ever be behind this box and throw a grenade. That's because we've had 2 people misthrow the grenade, land on this box, and everyone died because cook-off. You'll see why once you interact with this box, but come in here and grab a few incendiary grenades. There's other stuff that we'll talk about. But for now, let's talk about boxes. Okay, so we use incendiary grenades because I like them, and they don't explode like real grenades. Because I used to do this with real grenades, and I quickly learned that was a bad idea. And the practice grenades, I don't like them because you can't see the trail of your grenade thrown. But, anyway, I need to kill a guy in that bunker, but I need to reload. I'm going to throw a grenade with the G key. Wow, I was supposed to miss that, but... Lucky me, I'm going to try again. Yay! Oh, I completely threw over. God, I suck. If you hold control and hit the G key, first off, control G lets you cycle through your grenades, fun fact. So instead, you want to use shift G. And shift G gives you enhanced throwing. This is nice, because it actually shows you the path your grenade's going to travel. Now, quick thing about the, grenade path here. If you were to take a grenade and put it in enhanced throwing. If you look at the ground, you'll notice that at the end of the flight path, there's a green dot. That green dot means that's where the grenade's going to be, and it's going to stay in that area within about a meter. If you look at a person with it, you'll notice the dot is yellow. Yellow means the grenade is going to bounce somewhere within a meter or two, but it's not really predictable where it's going to land. If you now look at this HESCO barrier, or up at that structure, you'll notice that there's a red dot. And the red dot means it's going to land somewhere past a few meters, or land directly below it. It doesn't know. It's just guessing. You know, you're not some cool, futuristic soldier in World War II that has a HUD to be able to see where precisely your grenade's going to land. No, fuck that. You just got to guess. But with this, you can make a path to throw your grenade in that structure and then land up there. And then this is why I like the thermal grenades, because you can see if it lands in there, because you'll see the fire bleed through the floor because thermite. That's how you do enhanced throwing. Any questions? If you're accident prone with your grenade key, feel free to go into your options and unbind your throw key or rebind it to double G or control G, or just replace your throwing with enhanced throwing by going to enhanced throwing, making it G, and then making regular throwing and just unbinding it. I don't care how you do it, but just do note that if you bad frag, especially in spawn, it's usually a 3-day ban, so you've been warned. Any questions on throwing grenades? Cool. All right. Look back to this box and grab one of everything else.
Ooh, C4.
Once you do that, you need to jump on this HESCO, but don't go into this area. You'll see why in a second.
Oh. Ooh, are we gonna defuse mines?
Not mines. Up. Well, I almost got some content.
Wait,
I'll jump in for you. I'll jump in for you.
No, you can defuse IEDs.
Just depending on how it's set, right? Like whether it's pressure plate or proximity.
Well, you can defuse pressure plate. It's just a lot harder to defuse pressure plate because you get too close, you die. And it's funny.
How badly do you want?
This ones look like from Hurt Locker.
Yes, these are like Hurt Locker. It's a good way to put it.
Bomb.
Ignorance! I know you're ignorant, but you really need to learn how to pick items up. Get over here. No! Don't shoot people. Shoot. Intentional team killing is a 7-day ban, and that one's non-negotiable. Okay. So, if you hit the 2 key... Oh god, don't hit the 2 key. Gets super laggy for me. I forgot, I haven't fixed that on my server yet. But, generally, that's a mine detector, okay? It detects mines for you. It works like a metal detector. You can then do control windows and equip headphones to hear it better. You can also turn it on, but the closer you get to a mine or an IED, it'll start, behaving like a metal detector. It'll start from a low pitch to a high pitch, low frequency to high frequency. And, once you start hearing wheel, 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 that means an IED is right in front of you. In which case, I'm going to jump in this corner. Whoop. You can then, getting close enough, hold your Windows key down, and then eventually defuse it. As long as you have a defusal kit. Now, there's some servers out there that run it, so even if you're an engineer, blah, 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 there's still a chance for it to go off. We don't do that here because I'm not that evil. But... just so you know, there's other communities out there that hate you, which is why we're one of the better ones. Anyway, feel free to defuse these other 3 IEDs. We'll know if you pass in a sec. Yeah, feel free to jump in there. Be slow about it. But, these are what the general 4 IED textures look like. Now, the Zeus can make anything an IED, but, for reference, this is what they generally look like.
I think, yeah, that's the one left in front of you, Ignorance.
Yep.
You have to use Windows to defuse it.
Yeah, you have to hold Windows down or whatever your Ace Interact key is, and once you're close enough, you'll be able to defuse it. Now, there's also 2 types of IEDs. There's your pressure plate, and then there's your cell phone touch-off. Pressure plate means that if someone steps on it, like Ignorance did step on that one with his front foot, it would go off and kill us all. Then there's also cell phone tied, which means that there's a spotter somewhere watching that IED location, and then he could call a number, but that number is just the IED, and it makes it go boom boom. Once in a blue moon when we do Durka stuff, that's what we actually use. Cool, eh?
Once I'm scared about the people right there.
No, we'll get to that later. That's PID. Any questions on IEDs? Cool. I used to have these all set to pressure plate. I quickly changed that because people are stupid. Anyway, let's come over here. Now, diffusing IED, if you're not comfortable with, just diffusing outright, you can always shoot at it and blow it up, which is stupid. Or you can put a charge on it. So if everyone goes to control windows, explosives in place, put down your 112 demolition block. Don't arm it. Please. We're going to go over the different types of triggers, but we're not actually going to arm these things. Oh, mine disappeared. So I'm just going to look at someone's. So, Once you ace interact with it, you'll notice that you can either pick it back up or you can select a trigger. You're going to have 3 options.
Oh, I almost put it on a timer.
Yeah. First and foremost, you will always have the timer option or pressure plate option depending on what type of explosive it is. But timer lets you set the charge to go off anywhere between 5 seconds and 30 minutes. Usually you want to set to 10 seconds and run away and let people know you're booming something. Second option is your M57 firing device, also known as a clacker. This is your short-range demolition device. It's also instantaneous, so once you then set it to boom, and then go Windows, explosives, and then you'll get either explosive code 1 or your clacker. Depending on what you're doing, you'll have different explosive codes. Each time you set up an explosive on a clacker or the 152 Rams, it'll give you an explosive code for that device. So if you want to det a certain charge, like you're doing an ambush and you want to hit the first vehicle, you'll then do explosive code 1, 2, or 3, whichever explosive you placed, or you can do det all. It gives you that option too. With a clacker, those explosions will happen instantaneously. One of you just set the fucking bomb, you motherfucking idiot. Give me a second. This is why we also have defusal kits. Because some of you are retarded.
I don't know if you were... I was just curious. When it comes to the M57, do you know the range on it?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So the clacker generally has a range. I'm going to say 200 meters. It's a little more than that. But like TFAR, it works with terrain. So keep it close. Usually you want to do a det within about 100, 150 meters. The 152 Rams works up to a few clicks. I actually don't know the exact range, but I know it works a lot longer compared to the clacker. However, it takes a few seconds to actually cook it off with the Rams, which is your bigger box. Like, IRL, the clacker is something you hold in your hand, or if you play Call of Duty, that's what you use to cook off the C4 when you throw it. Whereas the Rams is a literal box that you hit 2 buttons on, and that's what they use to actually blow up buildings and stuff in construction and shit. Capiche? Anyone have any questions on boom booms? Now, one last note to destroy a radio tower, because we like to do that objective in this community. It's generally 2 explosive charges put right under the damn thing. But to knock out most buildings, it's generally 2 of these. And then, if you're using satchel charges, it's only 1. A satchel charge is like 2.5 times deadlier than one of these small charges. But we generally always use the C4 blocks. Alright. There's no questions. Pick your shit up. Come over here. Now, this is going to be more lecture-y because you're not all set to engineers because people take a bunch of time. So, once you're here, feel free to look up to the box right here and grab a toolkit. So, all pilots and vehicle crews are generally set to engineers. Sometimes you also have an IED specialist or a bomb diffuser or whatever in the squads that's also set to an engineer. If they're given a toolkit and actually set to an engineer, they have the ability to repair vehicles. But before we get to that, first off, you can remove wheels off of vehicles. Wheels are some of the easiest things to get damaged in this game, especially if you're a bad driver, like me. You'll probably fuck up your front wheels and not be able to drive the car. Every vehicle in this game, if it is wheeled, will have a spare wheel in its inventory. How to access that is you just Windows key and look at the cargo of the vehicle, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of spare wheels in here. So feel free to take a wheel out if you want, gather around. But if it's a tracked vehicle, it'll have a spare track. Now, you want to be careful when you pick these wheels up because you can actually hurt people with it. For example, if I were to pick this wheel up... Cog, where are you, little bitch?
Right in.
I just knocked him unconscious with the fucking wheel. Now, this also works with turrets and anything else you can pick up. So, keep that in mind. You generally want to say that you're interacting with a wheel. Just say, hey, carrying a wheel, carrying a wheel, carrying a wheel. Because if I'm an idiot and I don't hear you and I come around while you bring a wheel into my face... I'm going to get knocked out, and then the medic's going to heal me, and everyone's going to laugh at you and the guy you knocked out, and you're not going to have fun, because you're going to be a meme for a few days. Anyway, Undead will wake up, but since I don't like him, now he won't. Anyway, going on with that.
Still alive, I think.
You can always repair a vehicle's wheels. I think we have it set to even if you don't have a toolkit. I can actually quickly check that right now. Yeah, so even if you don't have a toolkit, you can take the wheel off because reasons. So, otherwise, if you're an actual engineer and you have a toolkit, you will be able to repair the vehicle. Now, let's say you take a Metis round and everything gets messed up on your BMP2. The first thing you are going to want to repair is the fuel tank. Why? That is because if you run out of fuel, the only way to fix it is to get an actual fuel vehicle out to your position, because we don't have ways for you to siphon fuel between vehicles and stuff. So if you run out of fuel, you're fucked, essentially. So always repair the fuel tank first. If it is an emergency situation, say you are under fire and you're about to get screwed, then you repair your guns first, so you can at least fire back, because hey, at least you'll be alive. Then, you know, repairing the fuel tank and then saving the vehicle, but now you're dead, and now the enemy forces can commandeer your vehicle and fuck everybody else. Capiche? Undead, just respawn. I'm going to be on lecture for... There it is.
Oh god.
One of you almost shot somebody. Anyway, by the way, I'm going to go back to weapons, guys. Hit the 0 key. Puts the weapon on your back. Also, you can hit Control F to put the safety on, or Control tilde, and that'll put a different level of safety on. Whatever safety you want, or put the gun on your back. Easy. So you should do that. Anyway, going back to engineering. Fuel tank first, then gun, then everything else, engine, window shields, whatever the fuck you want. Emergency situation, gun first, because you don't want to die. Capiche? If you ever run out of fuel and you can't get a resupply, also it's usually better just to det your vehicle, but again, situational. Depends on what's going on. Also, to repair shit, you just look at the vehicle with your Windows key down, and it'll come up with options depending on where you look on the vehicle. Every vehicle is different in that regard. I gotta scratch my back. Yes. Okay.
Oh no.
Let's move on to medical. This is gonna take us a few minutes.
I love medical. I love medical.
So, if everyone wants to, they can look in the vehicle's inventory, and you can grab a few bandages, one epi, one morphine, personal aid kit, and a tourniquet. Ignore everything else in there. I see some packing and basic bandages. We'll go over those in a second, but these are the basics. Also, I still haven't updated this map. I need to add defibrillator kits, but I'll talk about what they do. Also, we're about halfway through. It's only this section and one other section that are lengthy, but I will say this is going to be the most in-depth one, to say the least. So, real simple, going over what all of these items do. So first off, a bandage. If you get shot, that's what you use to heal yourself. There's 4 different types in Arma itself. There's your basic, your packing, your quick clot, and your elastic. We run advanced medical, but with basic medic structure. What that basically means is basic medical with basic structure just only uses basic bandages, morphine, and epinephrine. Advanced medical uses everything, but with basic medical structure, we don't do reopening wounds and stitch kits. I'll get over what all that means in a second, but for those of you that are Arma veterans, that helps you kind of figure out what we do. So, elastic bandage is nice because that's the one bandage and the systems we use that's our like go-to bandage. So if you get any type of wound, elastic bandage will fix it, as long as it's not a large velocity wound. That'll take 2 elastic bandages to heal, because the first one will turn it to a partial, second one will fully heal it. That's only a large velocity wound. Those are more rare, but sometimes you get them when you're shot. Usually you get abrasions instead. There's also a bunch of different types of wounds. If you look it up on the internet, you can find charts about what bandage goes to what, but that's only for advanced medical with advanced stuff. So elastic is kind of our go-to bandage. You'll get that in like 95% of your ops. Morphine lowers your heart rate, and it makes the... What? Okay, so morphine's nice because it lowers your heart rate, and it takes away pain. Pain is measured on white stuff flashing around your screen. There's also a chromatic aberration effect that we don't turn on that can also happen that makes it literally painful to watch your screen. So we usually stick it to the white color flashing instead because that chromatic stuff can really fuck your sight up. However, like I said, it lowers your heart rate. The only way to increase your heart rate is to hit yourself with epinephrine. This is because if you use too many morphine on yourself and your heart rate gets too low, you're going to knock yourself out and actually die. Same with epinephrine. If you put too much epi in your system, your heart rate's going to go through the roof and your heart's going to explode and you will die. Also, having your heart rate up or down affects how quickly you bleed out when you're shot. So if you have a lot of epi in your system and your heart's beating quickly, you're going to pump more blood to your wounds quicker and you're going to bleed out faster. Morphine, opposite effect. You bleed out slower. But that's more for thought. That's not actually something to meta micro in the game. Keep that in mind. Also, tourniquets. They're nice. Usually you're given them in groups of 2 or 4. I prefer to give 4. Some Zeuses prefer to give 2. If you're shot like 20 times in your arm, you can put a tourniquet on your arm and stop the bleeding. That gives you time to then bandage before you bleed out and die. Situational on if you want to use a tourniquet or not, but a tourniquet takes half the time to apply than a bandage. So if you get shot 3 times on your arm or whatever, it's easier to put the tourniquet on. Even if you have 1 wound, you'll save more blood by putting the tourniquet on first before you bandage. So, otherwise, we have the pack. And this is what kind of makes us different from other communities because we have this system. A pack gives you a full heal, but you have to be completely bandaged before you use it. It also resets your heart rate. So if you have like 5 morphine in you and you get packed, your heart rate's going to go back to normal. But it also gets rid of all your pain. It restores your blood back to 100%, blah, blah, blah. Only the medic can pack. We're all set to medic, so we'd all be able to pack each other, but it's not needed right now. Also, little addendums I have on my sheet. No, you cannot tourniquet your head or your torso. Sometimes I wish I could tourniquet my head, but what a tourniquet essentially does is cut off all the blood flow to a limb. So I'm not going to explain what happens when you tourniquet your fucking neck. But hey, if you ever want to try it out IRL, make sure you film it and send it to me, because I need a good chuckle. Also, no, you can't tourniquet your dick. Don't ask. Some of the shit I have to answer sometimes.
Part is, that shit's asked in basic training.
Yeah. I just lost my train of thought because I'm head bashing myself on my desk. But anyway, other things to note. No, that's it. But everywhere you get hit is different. So you can get hit in the head, your torso, your arms, or limbs. Always prioritize your head first because your head bleeds out quicker than your torso and your torso bleeds out quicker than your limbs. Also, if you get shot in the head, you're less likely to wake up if you go unconscious. General rule of thumb is when I say unconscious, first off, it's what I did to Undead Cog. We, hit him with the tire and he went in that prone animation, hands out, and his gun on the side. If you ever see players like that, or AI like that, that means they still have a small chance of waking up. So if you see AI in that animation, make sure you double tap them twice in the head. That might not actually kill them, but it'll virtually reduce their chances of waking back up to 0 because getting shot in the head multiple times usually means they're down for the count. Other things to note, if you get shot in the head by a 9mm and go down, you'll probably wake back up. Again, it depends on what type of caliber bullet you're getting hit by and what type of body armor or helmet you're wearing. So if you get shot in the head by a 50 cal, even if you have a helmet, you're probably not going to wake back up. You might, but definitely not after the second time. My general rule of thumb, how I play, is 3 strikes and you're out. So if I'm getting shot at by a rifleman and I go down 3 times, after that second time, I'm probably going to ask a medic for a pack to reset those values to put my health back at 100%. That way, I can keep waking up if I go down. Also, if people know they're about to die, like if they are about to go in a crash chopper, they generally tourniquet all their limbs beforehand, so that way they're only going to bleed out from their head and their torso, and maybe the medic will save them. Or the medic will be dead, who knows. But again, this is all situational. You'll develop these strategies as you actually play the game. One more thing I need to speak about, which I don't have an item for right now. Defibrillator kits. They are usable by anybody, but if you are a doctor or medic, you have a higher chance of waking someone back up when they're knocked unconscious. I believe for riflemen, we set it to like 15 or 25%, and then medics have 50%. So they can just use that to quickly wake people up, but they're still going to be wounded. It won't give them a full heal. Now, do note, if your heart rate's too high or too low, you have too much morphine or epi in your system, or you've lost too much blood, even if you're woken back up, you will go back to unconsciousness again. So, we also have blood bags and more bags of plasma or saline that, sometimes medics will bring to put in people if we're also using defibrillator kits. This is because some people want some slightly more advanced medical stuff without having to add reopening wounds and stitch kits, because that means we'd have to give you every type of bandage, and it becomes an absolute pain in the ass, in my opinion. But, we're trying to appeal to the masses. Other thing I'll tell you, because some Zeuses turn this on, we also have splints. If your leg's ever crippled for whatever reason and you're not using splints, just bandage it. It'll heal the limb. But if you are using splints, then you have to apply a SAM splint, and that'll heal your leg. Any questions on any of those items? Alright, cool. Generally, the rule, guys, also is one bandage heals one wound, especially a large one. However, a small, like if you have 2 small wounds, they can be healed by a single elastic bandage. So, fun facts. But, otherwise, how do you do medical? So, first off, there's 2 ways. First is what people like to ridicule me for, is the pleb way. Control Windows key, medical, and then you can heal your limbs through there. If you look, you've got your options to bandage yourself, you can check your own pulse, check your blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about that too much. But if you're a medic and you see someone have a low blood pressure, that's generally a good idea to either give them a blood bag or pack them, depending on what the situation calls for. But, you can put tourniquets on, remove tourniquets, yada yada. Also, fun facts, if you have tourniquets on when you get packed, those tourniquets disappear. So make sure if you're about to get packed, you take off all your tourniquets, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get them back, and you'll have to loot a dead body or an enemy for tourniquets. Also, fun fact, FAKs, which are the vanilla heal item, if you put them in your inventory, will give you a basic bandage, a packing bandage, a stick of morphine, and a tourniquet. So if you ever need to find tourniquets, that's what you loot, because it converts in your inventory. Now, the other pleb way to heal other people is hold the Windows key down and then, heal their head first, then their torso, then their limbs. The pack option will be on their chest, their torso, after they're all bandaged up. So you can actually look at people right now, since we're all technically fully bandaged, and pack them right now. Won't do anything since no one's been shot, but that's how you do it regardless. Now,
That'll knock me out if I get too much.
And I'll put in an EpiPen.
Usually 4 or 5.
we give general riflemen morphine and epinephrine for them to manage their pain if the medic is somewhere else at the time, also to keep them going in a firefight, because if you're only shot once, you can still fight. The medic has to attend to the guy that's actually been shot 20 times and needs to be brought up. So, the best times to get packed is generally after the firefight if it's not, life emergency, such as the guy that just got shot 20 times. So don't overcrowd the medic. Just pull your 360 security, which means, have everyone look in a different direction. And try to cover that medic best you can. Because if he goes down, you have to call another squad for their medic. And they're probably, like, 100 meters away doing something else with their own issues. So protect the medic. Also, if you're the medic, don't be in the front like an idiot. But anyway, let's go over the quote-unquote proper way, and I put that in air quotes to do medical. It's the medical menu. So if you need to change that button for whatever reason, you can hit escape, go to configure, go to controls, configure add-ons, and then under one of the ACE options, I believe it's common, yep, you can go to open medical menu and change that button. There's another thing we're going to go over in 2 modules that both of them share the same button to use it, and I'll tell you how to either override it or you can just change the button. But it's generally H. So if you hit the H key and you're not looking at anyone, it'll open the medical menu for yourself. How you simply use it is you click on the body part that is hurt, so your head, torso, blah, 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 and then you go to bandages or medication or blah, 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 and then just hit what it wants you to do, and it'll prioritize the biggest wound first for you to bandage, and then going down to the smallest wounds as long as you keep bandaging. It'll also give you an activity log of what's been done on you from who, or what you've done to other people, depending on if you're doing it to someone else. So if you walk up to someone and hit the H key, it'll give them their medical menu, and then there's a button that has a person, a slash, and then 2 people that lets you toggle between yourself and whoever you're looking at. Also, side note, if anyone ever wants to play Tourniquet Roulette or do a Morphine Bomb, that's also a 3-day ban. Tourniquet Roulette simply means everyone's in a vehicle, and since you can access everyone's medical while you're in the same vehicle as them, someone puts a random tourniquet on somebody. And the issue with that is if you have a tourniquet on after 10 minutes, after 5 minutes, you'll start getting pain effects. And if you still have it on after 15 minutes, you'll knock yourself out from the pain. So that's why Tourniquet Roulette's bad. And morphine bombing or epinephrine bombing is you just stick someone with 5 things of morphine or epinephrine and it kills them. Yay. Also, don't ever stick drugs in a tourniqueted limb because the tourniquet stops the drugs from working. I've had people in ops that don't know what the fuck they're doing put 5 sticks of morphine in their arm because they don't know why it's not working, and then they realize later they have a tourniquet on, they take it off, and then they kill themselves because the 5 sticks of morphine go into the rest of their body, slow down their heart, and they just die. It's funny, but when you're their squad leader, and you now have a man dead that you have to reinsert, or if it's a 1-life op, you're now screwed. So, be smart. Anyway, medical menu, you can use it if you want to be a Chad, I don't care. Also, if you go into a vehicle, you can access everyone else's medical menu, either with the medical, or you can hold, control Windows, Windows, go to medical, and then bandage people. There's many ways to do it. It's entirely up to you. Be a pleb like me and use it the basic way, or you can be an idiot, professional Arma player and use the medical menu. I'm totally not biased. Why would you say that?
Sometimes the menu's easier.
Any questions on being stupid or being an absolute Chad like me?
Got
Go.
cable ties.
Yep, so we're going to go over cable ties. Cable ties are nice because it lets you take your cadre. You don't even have to surrender. You can do it at any time. You just look at their hands and you can cable tie them. Cable tying is used for escorting civvies around that are non-complacent. You son of a bitch.
Let me. Yeah, here we go. Done. Wait, what?
So, with someone that's cable tied, you can, after you cable tie them, pick them up. You can open their inventory, make them drop stuff. You can free them. You can escort them, which puts them in front of you, and then you can hold Q or E to lean out with your gun and use them as a meat shield, which I love to do.
I do that a lot.
As the most of the T3s.
Yep.
Right.
Or you can go up to vehicles and even load them in the vehicle if you need to. If you need to drop them at any time, you just scroll wheel. Excuse me. You just scroll wheel, hit release prisoner, and then you can load the captive in the vehicle and it'll put them in. And then if you need to take them out, you just ace interact with the vehicle, go to passengers, look at his name, and then you can unload him. And then he appears right there. Any questions on that? Cool. Alright, next module. What do I have in here? Alright, grab one of everything. Fulton, Irostrobe, Maglite, and a Chemlight. So, first things first. Ace, like I said, makes this game 100 times better because it adds a bunch of different features. One of them being, if you're at night and it's dark, you can't see your map because there's no light for you to see your map. So what these little flashlights do is if you hold control Windows, you can toggle a flashlight. You also see hide GPS on map, which is what I should have made you do under the map section instead of dropping your GPSs, but I'm stupid. So the Fulton makes a red light, and the Maglite makes a white light. Now it's going to be really, really hard to see that because it's actually day right now, and I'm too lazy to change it to nighttime to prove my point. But trust me, they're there. Now, Maglite is an actual little flashlight. The issue is, when you use a Maglite, it makes a little white flashlight. You know, the light actually appears to other people. So if you're on top of a hill and you use a Maglite, you're probably going to give yourself away. So instead, if you're doing stuff like that, you want to use a Fulton, because it makes a red light, and the red light has a much smaller profile. Cool, eh? Also, that light's red because red light doesn't interfere with your night vision. And when I say night vision, in this case, it's more of an IR effect, but your natural night vision, you know, if you sit in a dark room for 10 minutes and your eyes adjust to low light settings. Red lights don't actually screw with that. Your power. Funny. But yeah, little IRL fun facts for you. So those are 2 flashlights that you can use. You can also use any flashlights attached to your gun. It'll give an option for that. Or you can go up to a car's headlights under a lamp or whatever, and it'll give you light to see your map. You can just use that. God damn, my throat's not having this today. So, other thing I should teach you is the other 2 items you picked up, your chem light and your IR strobe. If you go Control Windows Equipment, you'll notice an option called Attach Item. You can put an item on your shoulder. It's going to appear on your left shoulder, and these items last for 10 minutes. So, if you're in a zombie apocalypse and you need to PID each other, you can put chem lights on your shoulder. If you are a US Section 1 unit about to raid a Taliban base or whatever, you can use IR strobes. IR strobes basically make a flashing white light on, or not white light, infrared light on your shoulder every few seconds. So that way you know not to shoot the guys with flashy shoulders, but everyone that doesn't have a flashy shoulder, you shoot. So, quick math time. If you're going to be doing an operation that's expected to take an hour, how many IR strobes should you bring? Minimum.
6.
You'd think 6 is the right answer, but I would prefer 7. And the reason for that is you're not going to perfectly time those 10 minutes for each of those IR strobes. It's better to set a timer for 9 minutes or something, and then that gives you 1 minute between whatever you're doing to then put the IR strobe on your shoulder. But, you know, that means it only lasts 9.5 minutes, so you still are going to need that extra one for the end of the op because you're eventually going to run out of time. So 7, 8. I like to bring quite a few extra because not everyone thinks that way. And then when you get to the end of the op, PID becomes very difficult because nobody has their flashy shoulder pads. So I pass them out because I'm nice. Any questions on any of those little extra doodads in that box? Alright. Next module. C-Tab. Okay, everyone grab an Android and a helmet camera. Now, you're always going to want to put that helmet camera in your Rangemaster belt or Rangemaster suit. Basically, your uniform or your chest rig. Never your backpack, otherwise it doesn't work properly. So you might have to move things around because I know we've been picking a lot of stuff up. Don't bother with the rugged tablet. The rugged tablet is usually given to squad leaders and ground commanders because it gives them more options, such as viewing people's helmet cameras and interfacing with drones and whatnot. But to the general infantrymen, we don't really give them that ability. So, helmet cam you can't interact with. It does do a funny glitch where if you hit the right and left brackets, you'll notice that, actually, it's not even giving it to me right now, so never mind. Sometimes it gives you the option to detect mines, though it doesn't always work, but it's funny to have up on your face nonetheless. Yes? Okay, so after you have your Android, if you hit the H key, you'll notice that it'll appear on the left side of your screen over your GPS. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this also makes your medical menu appear. What I do to get rid of this is just hit the escape button once, and it makes the medical menu go away, but it keeps the Android on the left side of your screen. So an Android, in my opinion, is superior to a GPS, because if we were to all join the same squad, which, by the way, if you haven't already, join off my butt, hold Windows, go to Interactions, and then join my group. If you have your Android up, you'll notice that will all start to appear on that Android. So the Android is essentially a super GPS. It does all the functionalities of that GPS, but you can see everyone else's position on the map, their color coding for their squad or group or whatever, as long as they're in your group, the number that they are, tied with shack tack on the bottom left of your screen, and the position they're facing. So this makes the Android one of the most awesome devices you can use, which, by the way, we don't give it to you every but just saying. It really helps you from a squaddie member and a squad leader member perspective to you know, see everyone else's position on the map, see what positions they're facing for 360. If someone hasn't moved in a while, like let's say number 5 hasn't moved in a while, that would be Krieg. I would then just go on the radio and go, yeah, Krieg, you okay? And if he doesn't check in, I just did it too quick, and then you just heard me. Fucking hell. Like I said earlier, if you go from TFAR to local chatter or TFAR channel to TFAR channel too quickly, you can't hear each other. So I even just made that mistake. But, you know, if Krieg doesn't respond in like 10 seconds, I'll know Krieg's down, and I'll have to go send a medic with some escort to go heal him. So, like I said, really useful device for, you know, checking your positioning and whatnot. Even more functionality it has. If you do Control H, you'll notice that the Android is now much bigger, and it acts as your map, and it takes the full area of your screen. Basically a map that where you move your mouse, it gives you directions, bearings, the grid ref of the area you're moving your mouse to, yada da. What you can also do is the arrow key on the right that's pointing left, so right side of your screen, the one that's pointing towards your map, if you click that, you can toggle between your map and messages. Messages are nice because if you get a message, you can view it here. How you know you got a message is you'll hear a phone vibrate and then a little message icon appear more towards the top right center of your screen, so not the corner, but a little below. But you can hit compose and send a message to anybody that has a C-Tab device. This is really useful if you're either out of radio range or one of the Zeuses is using the TFAR jammer script, which makes everyone's radio communication usually 2x5, 1x5. If you're right next to each other, possibly even 3x5. But it basically makes a terrain coefficient to make talking on radios near impossible. Zeuses here do like to play with scripts. So again, this is a way you can communicate with each other even if your radios are fucked, and it has infinite range because it relies on cell towers. And if the cell towers are blown up, it relies on satellites. There's always going to be satellites, even if it's World War II. But you don't get this item in World War II because it wouldn't make sense. Capiche? Capuche? Kabosh? Again, more stuff that you know about. Also, by the way, when you're marking stuff on the map, we don't use the C-Tab system. We just use the the map from the M key and mark our stuff from there. Speaking of which, I never went over that. Everyone go over your maps real quick. If you want to put a map symbol down, it's pretty easy. You just double click. You can type something in description, change the symbol where it has the dot, change the color, change its direction where it's you know, facing, and then show to, you always want to put that on side. We generally do side chat instead of global chat here. Also, side chat is not for speaking on. You can change this with the 2 angle brackets, but and then hit the what button? The bracket key, not bracket. The backslash key to type something. That's only for if you like crashed in the op and you need the Zeus to teleport you back. It's only for technical reasons that you use that chatter. For anything else though, like if you're unconscious, you don't type to people to say you're unconscious, because that kind of breaks the immersion of everything. Capiche?
Shit, I'm lying, okay.
Cool. Also on the map, if you hold left control and hold the mouse pad down, you can draw lines. But, yeah.
I draw...
And then if you need to delete stuff, you just hover over it and hit the delete key. And it'll delete the line or icon or whatnot. Cool. Let's move on to the next section. Now, this section is a bit useless now because I don't teach it anymore, because I literally in the past 2 years, I've only ever had a single person ask me for it. But map tools. So you just open the map, hold control Windows, go to map tools, and you can have map tools appear. They'll spawn on the bottom left of your map, and you can use them for whatever you need to use them for. Like I said, I don't use them. I don't teach them. But once in a blue moon, if you're from a different community and you use them all the time, we still usually have them for you to use. Next module. Alright, so this is a standard US infantry squad. They're all wearing the same thing in terms of camo, and they all have similar weapon platforms. This is because of PID, positive identification. They can all ID that they're friendly based off of what they're wearing and what they're using, and they're generally going to fight dudes with AKs and shit. So, if they see people with AKs, they're generally going to shoot first and ask questions later if that is their rule of engagement. So, if you're one of these guys, you probably don't want to take an enemy gun, because if they see AK, they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. You're not going to change to a Russian helmet from a US helmet because it has better stats. Because if they see a green helmet instead of this, I don't even know what camo to
Send
call
in
it,
Goat
helmet,
Team
they're going to
6
shoot first and ask
now.
questions later.
Doesn't even count as desert.
US camos are weird, but my point is, stick with your gear, stick with your shit. If you need more ammo, tell your squad leader and the squad leader can call for a resupply. Only under extreme emergencies do you pick up enemy stuff because it messes with PID. But there are reasons to pick up enemy gear. Let's say you're out of AT and a fucking tank's charging at you. I get it. We get it. It happens. But for the most part, you generally want to stick to your stuff. Alright? Any questions on that? PID, guys. It's that simple. Now, this lecture, and this is one I really like to do. I've got my own AT Grenadier training where we go over it, but this is your little taste. Ace also adds backblast and overpressure. Get out of the tank. You ejected from it and left the fucking engine on. Good fucking god. People are so smart. Okay. So, backblast is simple. If I were to fire this rocket launcher, everyone behind me would get backblasted. Backblast essentially means all of the hot gases from the rocket shoot out from the back of this tube and hit stuff. So, Undead Cog, I would actually knock unconscious by shooting this rocket launcher, and he'd have a bunch of small to medium-sized wounds on half or all of his body, which are a pain in the ass for medics because they have to go to each limb individually and bandage it, which means it's going to take like a minute until they get him back up. Which reminds me, I completely screwed up medical, but I'll get to that in a second. So, when you're firing a rocket launcher, you want to make sure that no one is behind you. You want to hold Alt and look behind you by pan your camera around and yell clear backblast. And if someone's nice, they'll say backblast is clear. And then you can yell rocket, rocket, rocket and fire the rocket launcher. Or missile launcher, depending on what it is. So that way, you won't backblast anybody. Now, if you fire the rocket launcher against something solid, that gas is going to bounce off said solid thing and come back at you. So you'll backblast yourself. Same goes to if you are trying to take down an air asset and you have yourself like this, because, again, it's going to hit the ground and then come back at you. This shit is hot. It will burn the fuck out of you. So be careful. Now, opposite of backblast is overpressure. Overpressure is all the gases coming out behind the round from a tank, essentially. So, if the tank fires and you're standing where I'm standing, you're going to get knocked unconscious. In fact, Undead would probably get knocked unconscious. Everyone here would get knocked unconscious if that tank were to fire. So, at most, if you're working with the tank, you want to stand, I generally tell people up to halfway is good, but honestly, 2/3 is even better. Or I guess 1/3 from our position. So, anywhere past me, and you run the risk of getting backblasted. So, you generally want to be behind the tank, or away from the tank on the left or right, so the tank can do its job. Capiche? Cool. Let's go back to medical real quick, because I gotta talk about something. KYMS, thanks for the 2-month resub. Hope you've enjoying everything. Hope you get a kick out of this. Okay, so one quick thing I need to talk about medical is people being unconscious. I completely screwed this up, so I apologize, guys, that we have to go back here. When someone's in the unconscious state, you have 5 minutes to get them out of that unconscious state. Otherwise, they will die. That is what people reference as the bleed out timer, even though it doesn't actually have to do with bleeding out and losing blood itself. But if you are down and you're bleeding out quickly, if your blood reaches 0, you're also going to die, and that's a different variable entirely. So sometimes people who are unconscious that have been shot a lot in the head or whatnot will die quicker than 5 minutes because they're still bleeding. That's why, again, you prioritize the head first, chest, have all the limbs tourniqueted if they need to be tourniqueted, but yada-da. So, sometimes, if someone's been down for a while, you'll heal the medic, which, hear the medic say this, which, by the way, medic, first acting medic that comes to a mass cas is the guy in charge of, telling people how to fix the mass cas. Mass cas being defined as, I will say, 33% of an element being down. So if you're in an 8-man squad, 3 people down is generally a mass cas. It's up for the medic or the squad leader to call and say what a mass cas is, but having 1 person down and calling it a mass cas would be incorrect. So going forward with that, if someone is down and they've been down for a while, you might hear the medic call for CPR. CPR is another animation you can do on someone's chest, similar to where you can pack them, that plays a 15-second long animation of you conducting CPR. This extends their bleed out timer by 13 seconds. So in those 15 seconds that have passed, instead of losing 15 seconds on the bleed out timer, they only lose 2 seconds. Now, if someone's been down for a really long time and the medic has the manpower, he might call for something called double CPR, which essentially means 2 people do that animation. So 2 people doing a 15-second animation that gives them 13 seconds back will actually give them a net gain on that timer of whatever 13 times 2 minus 15 is. Quick maths. It's 11 seconds, if I did that correctly. Something like that. But you'll actually start extending that person's bleed out timer, giving the medic time to, work on bandaging and making sure that, the only way this guy is going to die if he doesn't get all the bandages up in time. So, with that, that's what it means if someone calls for CPR, double CPR, excuse me. But also do note, you cannot extend that timer past the 300 seconds, the 5 minutes. So, infinitely doing double CPR will eventually not net you anything because you'll hit that 300-second timer. One last thing I need to teach you is dragging and carrying people. So if someone is unconscious or they have a broken limb on their leg and they can only cripple walk, sometimes you might need to pick them up or drag them. Dragging only works if they're unconscious, but essentially what a drag does is you just go into a crouch, kind of like the hybrid of a crouch and standing animation. You go into a walk, and then you can drag someone away. You can also still fire your gun, but you can't aim it, and you fire it in the direction that you're facing with the drag. So dragging is nice because it lets you reposition people immediately right behind cover. So let's say somebody goes down right here, and we're taking fire from that US squad. I can then drag them and then bring them back over here. But what I generally like to do is drag and then turn left, and then it puts their body there immediately. When you play a game, you'll see what that means. But dragging is for short distances. Carrying is for longer distances. So let's say, we're in the middle of this open field and the closest cover are those rocks over to the west. But, I don't have the necessary time to drag them across this open field. Instead, it would be better to carry. Carry slings them over your shoulder after a 10-second animation, and you're forced in the general jog animation like this. And then from there, you can then put him down behind a rock and the medic can work on him. Do note that dragging someone or carrying someone makes them bleed out faster. So if they have a wound, like 20 wounds on their arm, you should probably tourniquet that arm first before you carry or drag them. That way they're not bleeding out quicker on you, and, the medic can still most likely get them up. So I apologize for missing those 2 things. The medical spiel is a very long spiel. Does anyone have any questions over what I just went over? All right, cool. Now, let's go back over here. Let's finish it up. We're about 3/4 of the way done. Most of the stuff we're going to go over is now lecturing, but this is good because my voice is starting to go hoarse. All right, let's go over here on the left first. Only 4 more modules, yay! So, This is our little spiel about the difference between cover and concealment. Undead. Stand behind this sandbag here. Here's the easiest way for me to show you the difference between cover and concealment. Undead, are you injured?
Nope.
Alright. Go behind those bushes. Undead, are you injured? Oh, he is dead. Hey, if you want to learn medical, you can heal him as I speak. Kappa. Anyway, this is the difference between cover and concealment. Cover stops bullets. Concealment hides you. For example, I'm going to go in this bush. Now none of you can see me, but I can still be shot, like how I just shot Undead. The AI will react to concealment. It'll be harder for them to spot you, but if they get aggroed, they'll shoot you behind the concealment. They'll still shoot you when you're in the cover, but the bullets will go into the cover, whereas concealment, bullets will go into you. So, if you have the choice between hiding behind a bush and a tree in a forest and you're being shot at, where do you want to hide?
Bush.
The tree is the right fucking answer because the bullets are going to go through the goddamn bush and hit you. Should I demonstrate this again? I don't mind.
I'll behind this human.
Humans are not cover. Banks, I hope you don't mind. See how easy they dropped?
Pop me again, would you?
Bullets will penetrate humans. Some calibers won't, like 9mm, but 50 cal will penetrate people. So, yeah. Anyway, feel free to bandage them up and pack them. There's your little medical training.
I did medical training.
I need to drink some more water. My throat's dying. I'm already out of water. Alright. Once everyone's sorted, let's come over here. Once you're here, feel free to grab a scope for your gun and a P-mag or two.
P-mag.
So, this is a scope. This is your basic marksmanship lesson. When you point down the range over to the east with your scope, you'll notice a bunch of lines. We're going to go over this real quick. So, bullet's going to go at the top of the upside down V. So at point blank, that's where you want to aim it. If you look down below that V, you'll see a 4 and a 6 and a bunch of lines. Now, this is an M4 sight, which is the gun we're using. That's because the M4 has an exact target range of, I believe, up to 400 meters, and then an exact area range of 600, give or take. I'm probably butchering those numbers. But basically, you're going to be accurate with your gun up to about 400 meters. Be guaranteed to hit something if you're accommodating for everything. You're going to hit the backside of a barn at about 600 meters, the area target range. So suppressing your enemy, you'll still be able to do that at about 600. Now, if you hold Shift-K, hit that and let go of both buttons, you'll also notice that a little dial on the top left of your screen appears with a dot. If, for whatever reason, that is a circle, that means there's no wind. But otherwise, this dial points at where the wind is blowing. So right now, the wind is blowing south about 5 kilometers an hour. Every dot represents about 5 kilometers. And I've seen dots go up to, like, 6 when you start getting to, like, hurricane wind conditions and shit. So that kind of helps you approximate where you're aiming. So if you're aiming at the further target, you might need to aim a little to the left so you can accommodate for said wind. But they go over this much more in marksmanship training. This is just me giving you a rundown. Also, if you notice, there are some lines next to the 4 and the 6. To put this in the simplest way, that is meant to be the line that you can fit in if someone's looking towards you or away from you, that you can put to from shoulder to shoulder to kind of get a built-in range. So if you can fit them in that line next to the 4, they're 400 meters away. So aim 400 meters. If you fit it in between the 6, then they're 600 meters away and aim appropriately. That line's supposed to represent, I believe, 19 inches is the average length of someone shoulder to shoulder in the real world, so it's modeled off of that. Because this is a game modeled off of the real world. And again, marksmanship training goes more into depth, but this is just to teach you how to use a basic ACOG sight. Any questions on that? All right, let's move on. Second to last module. Gotta go into Zeus interface for this one. Recruitment's always open in TSB. I mean, technically, there is no recruitment, but except tagging, but that's because most of our ops are open to the public, so, yeah. Gonna respawn these guys, so it's a bit easier for me. But, we're gonna go over some basic formations.
Guns down.
Yeah, feel free to put your guns down, guys. But anyway, formations. I will say this as someone that has Zeus tier for 3 years. The squads that use formations are usually much more effective than the squads that don't, or just use tactical blobs. So, we're going to go over what each formation means. Tug, can you stop running around and just listen, please? I know you're excited, but you need to keep your fucking dick in your pants. Thank you. So, the formation they're in right now is a wedge. What a wedge essentially does is you put one fire team on an echelon left and a fire team on an echelon right. One of those meaning, for example, I have them copied. So this is an echelon left. And this, after they all stop moving, is an echelon right. So, you know, they're just half of the wedges. So, wedge is nice because it, you know, puts one fire team on one side, one fire team on the other. And that way, if you're engaged from the flanks, one fire team, let's say these guys are engaged from the right flank, one fire team can hunker down, and the other units in that fire team can then make a tactical maneuver flanking on the left. It's because they're tied to the squad. So these 4 will say hunker down, and then these other 4 can, you know, flank around and then deploy somewhere to give enfilading fire on the hostile force, which simply means they just flank and fire at the enemy from a different direction and box them in. So that is one of the perks of the wedge. You can react to stuff that attacks you from the left or right. Issues with it is it's a big profile that takes a lot of space. So if you run into a minefield with a wedge formation, you're probably going to blow yourselves up because you step in a lot of different areas. Next formation I will go over is the line, also known as a battle line. What a battle line does is it puts everyone on line, giggity, and they stand about 2 meters apart, shoulder to shoulder, and attack a position. What's nice about this one is if you know you're about to go into an enemy objective, you can put everyone on line and have everyone be at an even distance to engage an area. The weakness with this formation is if you are flanked, you only have one guy on the left and one guy on the right to react to it, and they're going to probably get fucked. So, lines are generally used to attack general areas. Now, opposite of the line is the column, or the file. Files are generally more tightly spaced than columns, but I usually just go over the column for the sake of brevity. So a column sets everyone up to stand in, basically in a line, but it's not called a line, it's the damn column. But they, you know, you have one person in the lead, and then the person behind them, and so on. Perks of this is if you're going through a minefield, you only have one guy up front. They generally have the mine detector, and they'll guide you through said minefield. Or if you're going through somewhere like a jungle, and it's hard to maintain a wedge, instead you can do a column. Now, difference between column and file, like I said, column you have more distance than each other. File, it's more tightly grouped. File is better for going through a jungle, so if you're doing nom stuff because it keeps you closer together, whereas a column is better, though I will admit this column needs more spacing, if you're going through a minefield. Capiche? Last one I'll go over is the staggered column. Staggered column is basically a zigzag pattern, and it is exclusively used for traveling up roads. One fire team is on the left side of the road, one team's on the right. It's staggered in a zigzag because it lowers the angles in which you can be engaged. So if you have 2 columns lined up parallel to each other, left and right of the road, and there's a hidden machine gun turret in an alleyway to the left, that machine gun turret if you're doing 2 columns, will take out both lead guys, whereas if you do a zigzag, it's only going to take out 1 lead guy. Capiche? Also, usually when you're doing a staggered column, you have a vehicle escort in the middle, with the exception of any tanks that can overpressure you. Usually it's an APC or IFV, depending on the circumstances. Now, a few other formations. Already went over the echelons. Those are just half, wedges. But there's also a diamond formation, which is just doing a diamond over a target. Generally, it's best for fire teams if they're doing 360 security stuff, or if they're escorting an HVI, HVT, or a VIP in and out of an area. They generally do a diamond around them to cover them from, again, any different angle. Any questions on formations? So like I said, not every squad lead does them, but the squads that do them do a lot better of a job than the squads that do not. So, last module. Now, there are some communities out there that usually go hours in depth with what I'm about to teach you, but I'm just going to give you the basics. How to breach and clear a building. So, essentially, when you go up to a building, first and foremost, always bring your buddy. Though this is a barracks building, it's got 2 floors, a bunch of rooms. This is something you want to clear with like an entire fire team, because this isn't the only entrance. There's also an entrance over there. There's some entrances in the back. There's a ladder that lets you go up to the 2nd story. But this is the type of building you'd want to bring a fire team or even a squad in, because of just how many places bad guys could be hiding. But generally for towns, when you have, just a bunch of single room or, 2-story buildings with only like 3 or 4 rooms, generally a single battle buddy will be sufficient. That is because if you run off somewhere by yourself and get shot, no one's gonna know that you got shot unless they check C-Tab, but, sometimes you won't get C-Tab. And you better believe a Zeus like me is going to capitalize on this, steal your radio equipment, even your clothing, try to pose as you, and then get behind people and then mow them down with your gun. Because it's fun, and it teaches everyone a lesson.
Or you'll just take taps and run away.
Yeah, or that. Depends on my mood. But anyway, going up to a building, first off, you want to make sure you're crouched, because people can shoot through windows. And if you're in a city and there's a bunch of buildings, you want to take it slow, but, if you're watching one direction, you're not going to, be looking into those windows. There's a bunch of different formations that people like to teach. So, for example, let me have 4 volunteers line up on this wall right here. I'll just teach this for the sake of teaching it. But yeah, line up behind each other. So, generally, with a 4-man fire team, first guy's going to watch the door. Second person's going to watch down the street. Third guy is going to be watching windows. Fourth guy is going to be watching their... See, they even went into it as I was going through it. So you guys know this shit. But that's generally how 4 people, a fire team, do security while clearing buildings in the town. But digressing here, TSB, I don't mean to be rude, but we're not really that serious when it comes to doing stuff like that. But, if you ever go to a milsim group like the 15th MEU 506, they will hammer this in your head during your basic training in your O suit day 3. So, with all that done, Turgor, can you, for the love of fuck, man, go there, sit down, relax. Fuck, take your hands off your keyboard or something. God damn. He's not going to last 2 weeks, I guarantee you that. Anyway, digressing. You open the door, and there's 3 different things you can do. But first off, you can either, open the door with the scroll wheel option, or you can do control space. So control space, if you just tap that, opens the door regardless of what it's at. Undead.
Not touching anything.
So, what's also superior about opening with Ace, the control space way, is with the scroll wheel, you can set how much you open this door. So if you want to pie it a little bit, you can open the door a little bit, and then, use Q or E to then lean in and open what you need to until you then want to open the door fully to breach. So keep that in mind. Now, there are 3 different ways to breach a building. The first is the simple breach and clear, where you take a buddy. Undead will be my buddy for this one. And, I'll open the door. I'll then pie it. So I look in, keeping only my head exposed with my gun, and if I immediately take shots, I pull back. The reason is you don't want to get in a firefight right here, because if you're at the doorway and you go down, people aren't going to be able to get into this building. Undead, try to get in. Don't use any ace thing, just walk. See? He's stuck in a walk animation behind me because I am in the way because I'm unconscious. So if you take shots, you immediately let go of your leaning key and pull back, even close the door to buy you a second. Because if you get stuck in a firefight right there, one-on-one, we like to play, this is what they say in the 506, and I'm blushing about saying this, but we like to fight unfairly. We want to be able to, kill the bad guy in the building. So, if a breach and clear isn't viable, which, by the way, would just be as simple as saying to Undead, all right, I'm going right. Undead would go left. And then you just go in the building. You do not stop at any points, but you go in the direction you're going to say you're going to go and go to the near corner. If there's no near corner, like what Undead was doing, he's just going to walk up to here, but he's not going to go in that hallway yet because that's another group of territory that we need to, wait on because we have to clear the first section. The reason you don't stop and engage people, like in the middle, is, like I said, if you get stopped and knocked unconscious, if you're too close to the door, you're going to block anyone else from moving in. Furthermore, if you go right and you're the first guy in there, and there's a guy on the left, you need to rely on the guy behind you to take him out. Not going to lie, it's Arma. So the second guy's going to be slower than actual real life of getting in, because in the real world, you're right behind the guy with your gun up. You're going to be able to drop that dude. But with Arma, it's a little slower. So you just have to rely on your battle buddy taking him out. Because if you stop to engage him, maybe there's a guy you missed in the far corner on the right that's then going to shoot at the both of you, and if both your rifles are pointing at one dude, you're not going to be able to engage the other two, and then both of you are going to go down. Because, hey, if at least you go down, your buddy will be able to then raid you and say, hey, I need backup at this building and this grid ref at this num key because, my battle buddy got hit. Now, of course, if you pie the doorway, and see that there's a guy in there, breaching and clearing probably isn't the best idea. So the second way you can do things is a frag and clear, which simply means you open the door and then call frag out, throw a grenade, and then close the door. Wait for it to go off, and then either have the door open or go in, and then kill whoever's remaining. Or you can pie it again. It depends on the situation. Two situations I'll give you. If you are fighting Taliban, jihadi, dirt farm, or whatever, a grenade is going to kill them. So you can trust that they're going to be dead if you throw a frag in a tight room. If they're Russian and they have really souped up body armor, Russian body armor, by the way, is the most overpowered bullshit in this game. But they can tank grenades. So if you throw a frag, you're going to want to then re-pie it to make sure he's dead. Because, like I said, single grenade probably isn't going to kill him. Now, what if you are breaching a room and you have an HVI, such as a pilot you need to rescue, or a VIP or an informant, someone you need to grab, but he's being used as a hostage? Then you do the third option, which is a flash grenade and clear. Now, you do not ever use the blue rained flash grenades or the grenade launcher stun rounds. We'll go over that in grenade launcher training, grenadier training, I do them bi-weekly on this time slot, because they do damage. Because RHS is stupid. So if you throw a blue rained flash grenade in this building, you're going to kill your hostage. Because, again, RHS is stupid. That's the mod where that weapon comes from. Instead, you want to use the white rained flash grenade. What that does is if you get flashed, if you're a player, it's going to play a very painful audio sound and ear rape you, as well as make your screen go white. For AI, what it does is it temporarily sets their skill to 0 and turns them around facing the ground, making them really easy to run in and handcuff if they're an HVT high-level officer or whatever. Or, disable all the AI for you to then breach and clear and kill them all without really any fear of being shot back. However, if, let's say, I'm right here as an AI, and you throw the flash grenade right here and it's not in my field of vision, he's not going to get stunned. So keep that in mind. You still need to have your wits about you even after you flash and clear, because there is an off chance that the AI won't actually be flashed because AI. but 9 out of 10, it'll work. Any questions on anything I just went over? Fuck's sake. All right. That's it. Usually I do drills and stuff, but since we're over 8 people and we're at the 2-hour mark, I'm going to forego it. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to message me, but that's it. That's all the basics. But like I said in the beginning, you'll pick it up as time goes on.
If you get to Tier 2, WhatsApp does run some of these trainings.
Yeah, What's That does some really awesome trainings for Tier 2s and above. He goes into a lot of depth, and not to give any specifics, but the T3s and above are generally the people that have been through his trainings because he's ex-military. He knows what the fuck he's doing, essentially. He
doesn't fuck around either. So
yeah.
if you piss him off, you'll be kicked out.
He's one of the 5s. He came with Sniper Wolf from an actual Milsim community, so he knows what he's doing. And they used to run a lot of those types of trainings back when the Tier 2s were actually elite and whatnot. No offense, Undead.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We're actually trying to get back to that level, because I believe Tier 2 now is 4 weapon trainings, 3 or 4 weapon trainings now, and like a month instead of a 2-week wait period. So they're trying to make it so you have to earn your Tier 2 again, which I am not against. I kind of like that, because Tier 2 has definitely declined in quality for the past few years. So we're just trying to combat that. But anyway, that's how you go from Tier 1 to Tier 2. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to get all your names down. Before you go, make sure you get your Tier 1 badge first. After you get that, you can request it in Discord. Make sure you have a picture of your name with your rank, and they'll put it through. And I'll get you all on the spreadsheet by the end of the day. Preferably within the next hour. But yeah, again, any questions, come to me. If you have anything about the community, come to me. Come to Wolf. Come to anyone that's a 4 or above. As long as they're not in a channel playing a random video game, because no one likes to be bugged when they randomly game. But yeah, if there's nothing else, guys, feel free to chill for a bit. I'll get ranks assigned and enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Basic training.
All right, now I gotta tag them all. So give me a second.
I shoot guns now, yeah.
My throat is always so fucking hoarse after these. I meant to bring more water upstairs, but I forgot.
I'm the only one that's been a dickhead, but fault. Sorry.
Let's see. This was 1, 2, 3, 4. This was an 8-person class. Yep. It could have been a 12-person class, but no, an 11-person class, but 3 of them forgot the mod set. Which, speaking of which, we're actually getting the mod sets changed soon to the latest versions, cycling stuff out. Yada-da. Also, I'm working on a new Tier 2 campaign. And we're going to go very real world in it. It's going to be some Kurdish defense stuff from the Turkey invasion. So, that might get me cyberbullied. But, anyway, let me tab back in. Alright, I got you all tagged. You can leave if you want. You can stay on this mission file. I'm going to keep it for another hour or 2 before I switch it to my Friday stuff. But there's an op at 1, there's an op at 4, and an op at 7:30. The 7:30 is supposed to be 6:30, but Sniper Wolf's pushing it back so we can add every bell and whistle, because he's definitely one of the best Zeuses here. But if there's no more questions, you guys are dismissed. Milsim, yeah.
If you want to play snipers at half 7, it is the Halo mod set.
Yeah, it is the Halo mod set.
Which one?
Billman's is Realism at 1. I think it's going to be Billman's. And mine's going to be the Friday mod set. But anyway, cheers, guys. I'll get you all added to the spreadsheet within the next hour.
That's one of the... That mod set's already in the Discord.
Oh. At least we got it under 2 hours. But, alright. Here's the deal, guys. So we're going to be doing ops all today. So we've got one at 1. I'm going to be on the ground for that one. We've got the 4 p.m. one. And we have the one at 7:30. And then Warcraft is probably going to be pushed back by 30 minutes to 9:30. We're just going to start that up as soon as Sniper Wolf's op finishes. But this leaves me with about 55 minutes of chill time. I need to go chug water to unfuck my throat. And yeah, we'll be back in 55 minutes. Oh yeah, and I got to write them all up on the spreadsheet. And I'll probably be playing Salty Bet. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Go operate operationally. Hopefully I'll see you in 55 minutes for Billman's op. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Take care. Have a good one.